Welcome to Utahflycast.com. We have another super simple, super effective fly for you today. We are going to be tying Charlie Craven's Jujubee midge. We're going to be doing this one in a zebra pattern, which seems to be working the best on the Provo right now. This is a midge pattern, so any river that you go to that's a tailwater, this is probably a good fly to bring with you. Midges are pretty much everywhere. That, and it doesn't take a lot of material. You're going to need a couple different colors of thread. We're going to be using a white 10-aught for tying up underneath the underbody, and then I also have an 8-aught black for tying the head and the wing bud section. You're also going to need some super hair. You're going to need 2 strands of a dark and 2 strands of a contrasting color. Since we're tying a zebra midge today, we're going to be using 2 pieces of black, and we're going to be using a clear piece as well. For the wing case, you're going to be using some polar fiber or Antron yarn, whichever you would prefer, and that's all that looks like right there. So to start this fly, pretty simple. Just like every other fly, you pick a tie-in point for your thread and just start wrapping back from there. Since this is a midge pattern, we are going to be using a scud hook today. This particular size is a 14. This fly is best fished probably about an 18 is the biggest I would go, and then all the way down to a 22 is when I tie them. So with your white thread, start at your tying point, and you're actually going to wrap that pretty far down the bend of the hook because you want it to have that aquatic insect curve to it that the fish seem to like. Take your super hair. Doesn't matter how you've got these set up, how you've got them stacked. It'll kind of take care of itself as you start to wrap it up the body. And go ahead and tie those in, and then just wrap that up the hook shank, making sure you keep those fibers on the top of the hook. Once you get your tie-in point, go ahead, snip off the excess, tie them down pretty good. And since right now I am using some 10-aught thread, I go ahead and I put some half hitches in. I have a tendency to catch this thread and pop it, and I don't like starting all the way over on a fly. So take your super hair. Like I said, it doesn't matter what order you've got it in, how you've got it wrapped. It'll kind of take care of itself. And then go ahead and start wrapping up the shank of the hook. And even after a couple wraps, you can already see how I've got that segmentation and button up the 2 black fibers with that clear fiber, and I didn't really mess with it and try to get it perfect when I tied it in. And this stuff is very slippery, so make sure you get a good handle on it, otherwise it's just going to unwind on you. And wrap that all the way up the shank to your tie-in point. Once you get there, go ahead and just secure that down, clip your excess, and then here I just go in, make sure that's nice and secured. And here you have a couple options with this fly. If you don't like changing thread, you don't have to. You can get a black permanent marker, use your same thread, and just color that thread as you're tying to create that head of black that you want. Right now I'm switching to a little bit thicker thread because we're going to have to build up a pretty good wing case and hump for this. So I'm switching to an 8-aught, and this particular one is a uni thread in the black color that I need. So right now, come over and grab your polar fiber or whatever wing material you decide to use. Go ahead and tie that in. Trim the excess. And now we've got to kind of build up a wing case. So just come through with your thread You're going to want to build up a pretty good sized hump. And you can do this with a 10/0, but it just takes a lot longer and you're going to be using a lot more of your thread. So when you get a hump size that you like, grab these fibers, roll them over the top, and secure that down to make your wing case. When you get to this point, you kind of want to split the fibers as evenly as you can. Pull them back and then secure those down as well. Now, as I'm on the bench tying this, I usually just come back and snip them about the length of the body that you tied in with that super hair. Just because you can always kind of go back and trim it more on the river if you'd like. If some of them have a longer wing, you're not stuck with what you decided to on the bench. If they're shorter, you can always cut it down. Just like everything, add some head cement to your thread. You can do a couple half hitches, you can do a whip finish, whichever you prefer. Snip your thread, and I'm actually going to cut these wing tips down to show you what the pattern's supposed to look like when it's all finished. So that is a zebra jujubee midge. Right there. Super easy, very cheap. For more patterns just like this one, come to Utahflycast.com.